Good Saturday afternoon, everybody, wherever you are. This is BETHEA'S BYTE Reloaded. I'm Ernest Bethea, the last outlaw. Good to have everybody here in the house with me. I want to get to the Boy in the Box trial, the last 4 days of testimony. But before I do that, as always, I want to give you our missing persons report. So I want to start with one that I tried to do on this past Wednesday. In fact, I tried to do this entire edition this past Wednesday, but we'll talk about that later. First off, this is Lena Sadar Keel. She's missing out of San Antonio, Texas as of December 20th, 2021. At the time of her disappearance, Lena stood about 4 feet tall, weighed around 55 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. Here's the details. Lena Sadar Keel was last seen on the afternoon of December 20th, 2021 at a playground at an apartment complex called Vilas del Cabo, located in the vicinity of the 9400 block of Fredericksburg Road in San Antonio, Texas. She was last seen wearing a black jacket, a red dress, and black shoes. She has straight, shoulder-length hair. Anybody in the San Antonio, Texas area, if you have any information concerning this case, please get in contact with the San Antonio Police Department at area code 210-207-7660. Again, that's 210-207-7660. You can also contact your local FBI office or submit your tip online at tips.fbi.gov. What you don't want to do is hesitate on this. Let's find Lena. Let's bring her home safe. Next is Sierra J. Chapman. She's been missing as of December 27th, 2022 out of Trotwood, Ohio. Pay attention to all four of these photos, ladies and gentlemen. At the time of Sierra's disappearance, she stood about 5 feet 5 inches tall, weighed around 115 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. The details are as follows. FBI Cincinnati Field Office is assisting the Dayton Police Department in Ohio with their search for Sierra J. Chapman. Chapman was last seen during the early morning hours of December 27, 2022 at an Autumn Woods Drive apartment in Trotwood, Ohio. Chapman was reported missing on December 29th, 2022, and on January 6th, 2023, police found a 2014 Cadillac SRX SUV in Middletown, Ohio. Her purse and other personal belongings were located inside the vehicle. However, Chapman has not been located. The Dayton Police Department believes there may be suspicious circumstances surrounding her disappearance. The FBI is offering a reward of up to $10,000 for information leading to the recovery of Sierra J. Chapman and information that leads to the identification, arrest, conviction of the persons responsible for her disappearance. So everybody in the Trotwood, Middlewood, and Cincinnati areas, pay attention. If you have any information regarding the disappearance of Sierra J. Chapman, you're asked to call the Dayton Police Department at 937-333-COPS. That's 937-333-2677. You can also contact your local FBI office or submit your tip online at tips.fbi.gov. Again, the last thing we want you to do is hesitate on this. We want to bring Sierra home safe. Thank you so much, dear. And last, we bring you the case of Jason Jokalski. Jason has been missing as of June 13, 2001, out of Omaha, Nebraska. The details are short, but they're still pertinent nonetheless. At the time of his disappearance, Jason stood about 6 feet tall, weighed around 160 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. Let me pull this photo up again. This is the last photo that was taken of him around 2000 or 2001. On June 13th, 2001, Jason Jakolski went missing after leaving his residence in Omaha, Nebraska. He was last seen walking to work at Fazoli's restaurant and was supposed to meet a friend at Benson High School. If you have any information regarding the disappearance of Jason Jakolski, you're asked to call the local FBI office or submit your tip online at tips.fbi.com. Ladies and gentlemen, with those 3 cases, Sierra Chapman, Lena Sadar Keel, and Jason Jakolski, the last thing you want to do is hesitate on this. If you have that information, submit that information to local law enforcement, because we want to bring these people safe and sound, return them home to their loved ones. If you see something, please say something. Let's bring those 3 home, right? Now, before I get into the boy in the box trial year, so the boy in the box trial. But I want to bring you an update to another case that just sickened me the moment I heard it. There have been indictments involving the 2 teens that killed a former California sheriff's police chief. So I'm trying to get the title right, so bear with me on that. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and share this article. All right, here we go. That's perfect. Okay, I can share that too. Okay, take a look at your screen, guys. These are the 2 teens that were arrested for not only hitting and killing the former police officer, but they filmed it and had no care in the world about who they hit, who they killed. One of them even went so far as to brag, saying it's just a hit and run. I'll be out in 30. Trust me. Have I got some news for you? A grand jury indictment released on Friday against the 2 teens charged with murdering a Las Vegas cyclist describes a deadly crime spree. 19 people testified before the Clark County grand jury, resulting in a 14-count indictment against Jesus Ayala and Jasmine Keys. Ayala, now 18, was 17 at the time of the crimes. Keys is 16 years old. Both will be tried as adults. The felony indictment involves 7 victims, including Andreas Probst. The retired California police chief was killed on August 14th while riding his bicycle. Ayala and Keyes are accused of using a stolen car to intentionally crash into Probst from behind and then leave the scene. A disturbing video shot from the passenger seat of the vehicle recorded the teams talking and laughing before hitting and killing Probst. The teams allegedly rammed another victim just before hitting Probst, leading to a separate count of the indictment. Another count names a 4th victim who, like Probst, is over 60 years of age. The indictment obtained by Scripps News Las Vegas says that Keyes and Ayala tried to kill that victim by intentionally hitting him as well. The 2 teens also face a charge of residential burglary for breaking into a woman's home, as well as all 3 counts of grand theft auto for stealing cars, all of them Hyundais, from 3 female victims. District Attorney Steve Wolfson told Scripps News Las Vegas that he's confident the cases will be consolidated in the next few weeks. For now, they're separate. Ayala's preliminary hearing is scheduled for October 10th, which is this coming Tuesday. And Keyes is next expected to appear in court November 8th. Remember those faces, guys. Jesus Ayala is on your left, Jasmine Keyes on your right. Let's hope these guys get what's coming to them. Now, the wait for me personally is over. The wait for me personally is over. Why do I say personally? Because I've waited a year for this. This is the case that put me right at the doorstep of the YouTube true crime community. And to everyone who welcomed me into the community because of this case, I thank you all. For everyone that subscribed to my channel, beginning with this case, I thank you all. To all of my subscribers, I thank you. I love you all for all the support you've given me. Now, it's time to start paying you guys back. This is like I said, this is the case that got me in the door. This is the beginning. This is the case of the state of Florida versus Timothy Dunn Federer. Federer is charged with aggravated child abuse, child neglect, and false imprisonment. Now, this past Wednesday, I had planned to go ahead and just start off everything with opening statements. But as I prepared for today, I thought about a favorite line by WWE superstar and Hall of Famer Booker T. Today, I'm not here to give you any bread. I'm not here to give you any water. It's just meat today. So, having said all that, let me begin. Let me start off by getting you all prepared. What am I doing to get you prepared? I am starting it off with the obligatory trigger warning. Now, why would I do that? Why would I do that? Simple. The reason is simple. I'd start off with a trigger warning because the case itself is emotionally triggering. It's the kind of case that will, as I would say, set you off. So if the subject of child abuse is that emotionally triggering, and it is for me because I have endured it to a degree. If this kind of subject is triggering for you, then here's my warning beforehand. Okay, now that you got that, then there's the copyright disclaimer. Because everything you see, I'm telling you right now, it's coming straight from my good friends at Court TV. So I'm gonna shout every one of the anchors out, from Julie Grant early in the mornings with opening statements. Shout out to Julie, to Ted Rollins, to Julia Janae, Kelly Craft, Charlie Painter, Judge Ashley Wilcott, Michael Ayala, and my main man, 50 Grand, Vinny Politan. Shout out to all of you guys for doing what you do and doing it so well. All right, here's the copyright disclaimer. Now that we're on the same page with that, you've been warned. I'm covered as far as what I'm showing today. Now we get down to the nitty. In fact, you know what? Of course, I'm the John Cena. I'm the John Cena of true crime. You can't see me. All right. All right. There's your defendant, ladies and gentlemen. Tim Ferriter. Timothy Ferriter was indicted along with his wife Tracy in March 2022 on charges of aggravated child abuse and false imprisonment. Though the couple was initially charged together, the cases were severed at Timothy's request, citing comments his wife made to police when he was not present. Police in Jupiter, Florida began investigating the couple after their son was reported missing on January 28, 2022. At the time, Tracy told police that the child who was missing had run away from home on several occasions before, and told officers that her adopted son had several behavioral disorders. Before the child's disappearance, officers were contacted by a contractor, identified in court documents as Jack, who wanted to report that the couple had asked him to build an office in their garage. While he complied with their request, he noted that what they asked for was odd. Quote, the room was built as an 8-foot by 8-foot space in the garage with its own ceiling and door. Jack further advised that the door had a deadbolt lock and a knob only on the outside, no knob inside. So if someone were inside the office, they would not be able to exit unless someone opened the door for them on the outside. Jack stated he was also instructed to build the space with electricity and install a window air conditioning unit as well as a camera in the ceiling. On January 30th, 2022, the child was still missing when police returned to the house to follow up. When police were given access to the house to look around, they noted toys in what was described as the children's bedroom had toys that were for younger ages. When asked about the child in question, Tracy allegedly told police there was a structure the child had built in the garage. The officer described the room as having a small box spring and mattress with a sheet and a pillow, a desk with a folding chair and a camera. It should be noted the room was a plain white structure with no paint or color on the walls and appeared to be bare drywall. The wall was bare. The floor was bare. Was a bare garage floor with part of an indoor rug covering it. On January 31st, 2022, the school's resource officer called Jupiter Police after seeing the child on a security camera. When police spoke to the child, he said he described his room as 8 by 8 and said that his father gets aggressive and once slammed him against the wall by his neck and struck him in the face with an open hand. When officers asked further about the room in the garage, the child said that he was locked in the room for up to 16 to 18 hours and that he was given a bucket to use as a bathroom. Excuse me for a second. Anyway, interruption. Excuse me. So he was given a bucket to use as a bathroom, which he then had to dump in the backyard and clean. Officers said the child said he ate alone in his room and was given leftovers after the rest of the family ate. When asked why he left, the child said, "Because I feel like no one loves me." Can you imagine that? Officers said the child's story was corroborated by thousands of videos found after serving a search warrant for the Ring device. In a motion filed on March 17, 2022, Ferriter accused police of illegally accessing data from his Google account via his underage children. Among the evidence expected to be introduced at trial is evidence of Ferriter's prior behavior in Arizona before the family moved to Florida. Prosecutors said that in the 2 to 3 years before the family moved, the child was moved out of the main house into a small, windowless room containing a bed separate from the rest of the family. Now, all this evidence is pretty much stacked up against him, right? So here's the strange thing is. Prosecutors offered Timothy Ferriter a plea agreement that would have sent him to jail for 24 months. 2 years. 2 years and have him on probation for 5 years. But he rejected it into the days leading up to the trial. Ladies and gentlemen, remember what I said he and his wife are accused of, right? Aggravated child abuse, child neglect, and false imprisonment. If Ferriter is convicted, he could face up to 30 years in prison. 30 years. And we still don't have an court date yet for Tracy. Now, as I've only given you a summary. I've only given you a summary of what we're working with before trial. We're already 4 days of testimony in, and I want to give you a little analysis from a psychologist to start with. No. All right. All right, here we go. This is psychological analysis. Again, we're already covered as far as what I can show, and you've already been covered as far as a trigger warning. So without further ado, here's the psychological analysis of this case.
Jupiter is an affluent community in Palm Beach County, Florida, a town where $1 million homes and beautiful subdivisions are very common. Tracy and Timothy Ferriter owned a home in Jupiter, and from the outside, it looked very much like the other homes in the neighborhood. However, there was something very different in this home, specifically in the garage. A structure built with 2x4s and sheetrock. It was 8x8. Some have referred to it as a box, others as a room. It has no windows, but had air conditioning, a door with a lock on the outside, and inside the space was a bed, a small desk, a camera, and a bucket. Prosecutors say this was a box that was used to abuse the Ferriter's adopted son. The defense says this was a room used to keep the boy and his siblings safe. Tonight, we'll take a look at this room, the way it was used, the words and actions of the Ferriters, and their son's behavior with our own experts as we investigate what happened inside this garage in Jupiter, Florida. I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. This hour, we are talking about the story, the case, the trial that everyone is talking about. We call it the Boy in the Box trial here at Court TV. Others say, oh, it's not a box, it's a room. Well, that's what the debate is all about. Those are the allegations, though. Those are the allegations. Now, we're not naming the boy by his name. Some people are using his initials. I'm just calling him the adopted son of the Ferriters, who are the defendants in this case. Timothy Ferriter on trial right now. During the opening statement for the defense, though, the defense attorney, and she was very effective in the way she tried to focus this jury and narrow the issue, but she said, parenting is tough. And that is something that anyone who's watching tonight who is a parent or has ever observed parents maybe at the mall or somewhere else with their children, you know this is true. Parenting is not easy, not by a long shot. It's fulfilling, it's amazing, but it's also difficult, and there are lots of challenges. And those of us who have raised children, you know that each one is different. It's not one size fits all. And you know, you hear a lot about nature versus nurture. I'm big on the nature part of that, because every child, at least in my house, is wired a little differently, and you have to adjust, and you've got to figure out how to take that child as they are and make them successful and have them grow into adults. And it's tough. I agree with the defense. Write that down. I agree with the defense. But you know what else is tough? Growing up is tough. It's not easy being a kid. I'll admit, my life growing up, a lot easier than most. That's because I had amazing parents. I had access to everything I ever needed. I was spoiled in a sense that I had two amazing parents, and they spent all the time and effort and focus on making sure my life was like amazing. And so I'm spoiled. Not every child has that, and that's unfortunate, but that's reality. But growing up is tough for kids, not just that part of it, but if you suffer from anything, whether it's some sort of learning disability or perhaps depression or other issues, just going through puberty and peer pressure, and now we've got social media and all these other things, growing up is not easy. Now, of course, it was tougher when we were kids, right? That's what we tell them, but it's just not easy. It has its challenges. So when we hear from the defense that parenting is tough, well, so is growing up and being a child. And that can become even more difficult if your parents are not helping you through this process. That's what makes growing up a little bit easier, and real easy in my case, but real easier for folks if you have parents who are like doing the right thing. And that's kind of what this case is about. And the defense admitted that they made some bad choices as parents here, but they've also spent some time bringing out the behavioral issues that their adopted son had. So inside this courtroom, it's like turning into a battle of, are these bad parents or a worse child? And I don't know how the jury's going to decide all of this, if that's going to be one of the things that they're balancing and looking at, but clearly it is part of the discussion, part of the evidence and the analysis of what is happening and what happened in this house. How did the boy end up in a box or in a room, depending on your perspective, locked from the outside inside that garage? That's what they have to figure out. And what is it? And what is it? Is that box created or that room created to keep people safe, or is it to torture this child? That's what this jury has to understand and try to figure out. It's not easy, and it depends how you see it in your own little filter when you look at this room, right? Is this a torture, a place where someone's tortured? Or is it a place where, hey, we got to put him in there because this kid's out of control and we've got to keep the other 3 children safe? Not an easy one. Okay, Dr. Wade Myers, psychiatrist, testified today for the prosecution to give us a little more insight into what the adopted son of the Ferriters was dealing with and what his conditions had been and what he was diagnosed with. Kind of gives us sort of a baseline of what the Ferriters were dealing with in trying to raise this child.
Was there any indication in the records you reviewed that the defendant in this case was advised to treat his son how he did?
No, there was not.
Was there any indication that any medical professional ever told him that he should keep his child in a room in the dark for hours during the day?
No.
Was there any indication that any medical professional said that the child should be deprived of access to a bathroom?
No.
Now, I want to talk for a second about some of the specifics that you testified to. There was a little bit of a talk about the oppositional defiant disorder diagnosis by Ms. Martin. Was she a doctor or a clinical licensed social worker?
She's a social worker.
Okay. So that wasn't a diagnosis that was done by a doctor?
Correct.
In addition, that was in the year, what year thereabouts was that?
That should have been 2015 when he was, let's see, 8.
In general, did you see or were you able to tell how often he was, there was any kind of intervention for that or how often he met that licensed clinical social worker?
We're talking about Kathleen Martin.
Right.
Yes, and that was, I have in my records September to November of 2015 when he would have been 8 in 2nd grade.
So a 3-month period?
If that, I could only find 3 sessions, the intake and then a couple of those, a couple others.
In reviewing of the records that were made available to you, is she the only practitioner that found that oppositional defiant disorder?
Susan Martin in the same year, a counselor also who saw him, very limited notes from her as well, but she had ODD as a diagnosis or possibility.
And would that not reflect later on, was that reflected in the findings of the other people he saw like in 2018 and 2019? Which would be like Dr. Reinbacher?
Yeah, he focused more on the ADHD. I believe ODD may have surfaced.
Okay. Now, or was he, take a look, was he just reactive attachment disorder and ADHD?
Yes.
Is there a treatment for oppositional defiant disorder if it in fact is accurate?
Yes.
Does it involve locking a child in a room?
No.
Would it be just therapy and medicine?
Yes.
Is there any indication that that was pursued for beyond those 3 appointments that you told us about?
No, and that's what I could never sort of find a reason in these couple therapists he went to as to why it just stopped after 1 or 2 or 3 sessions. There was no sort of explanation. It just stopped.
3 sessions, that doesn't seem like a lot to try to help a child who's suffering from whatever. Let's bring in our guest to help us through all of this tonight. Joining us in Orlando, Florida, psychotherapist and CEO of Life Counseling Solutions, Dr. Janie Lacey. In New York, nationally known psychotherapist and host of Talking Live and the Bite-Size podcast, Dr. Robbie Ludwig. And in St. Louis, Missouri, licensed mental health and nationally certified clinician specializing in trauma, child abuse, and neglect, Sharonda Brown is with us. Great to see everyone tonight. ODD, Dr. Janie Lacey, what does that mean? How does that, how serious is that oppositional defiant disorder? How serious, how common, how does it manifest itself?
Oppositional defiance disorders, when we're looking at the child or the teen, right, there's an oppositional with authority, right? You're going to get some pushback when it comes to parenting. But when we look at what we're listening to, there is a lot of different things that parents, if that was the case, that they could have done to help their situation, not only therapy and following the therapist who may specialize in oppositional defiance disorder and parent coaching. I mean, there's so many things when that's the true diagnosis that the recommendations would be made by professionals to be able to help them along the development of that child.
So let's take a look at what is at the, and there it is, at the the center of this entire trial is this box or room that was built in the garage. I want to take a look at it right now. Let's take a look first. And okay, as we look at this, and there's a desk, there's a mattress on the floor, you see where the door is, and then at the foot of the bed is the bucket. And all of this is being recorded by the camera that is also in there. So as we look at this, what do you see, Dr. Robbie Ludwig? Do you see a place that, well, first of all, do you see a room or do you see a box? How would you define this?
I see a prison. That's what it looks like to me. That it is a place of isolation. It's separate from the home, and that the whole meaning of this room is, for bad kids, for a bad child, and they're being punished. So just the whole idea rubs me the wrong way if you want to be a healthy parent and parent a child, especially if a child has some issues going on.
But you know what, Dr. Robbie Ludwig? I've been to jails and to prisons, not as an inmate, but as an attorney and as a prosecutor. They actually have bathrooms inside those cells. They don't have buckets. They have actual, toilets and sinks. So it's a little different, but I get the idea.
This is worse.
Yeah, this is worse.
Than prison room. Yes.
Sharonda Brown, when you look at this, does this look like a place where you would keep a child to keep the rest of the family safe, like a safety precaution? We need a room. We've got a child, may have ODD, may have reactive detachment disorder, may have some ADHD, grabs knives and stuff. Is this a place where we can put him to keep everyone else safe? Or does this strike you as a place where someone goes to be disciplined or punished?
Absolutely not. It's not a place to keep anyone safe. That's a place you send a child when you want them to be shamed, or you want them to be isolated, or you want them to feel bad. Discipline is supposed to boost your self-esteem and teach you at the same time. What is that teaching him? What was that teaching him? How effective was that? It seems like it was a space to make him feel bad or make him feel like he was not a part of the family.
Let's take a listen to some of the testimony of the adopted child of the Ferriters. He testified, compelling testimony. And here he is talking about life inside that room or life inside that box.
Who controlled that?
My parents, Tim or Tracy.
Okay. Were there times that you were in the room in the dark?
Yes.
Is that at night sometimes?
Yes, and also during the day.
Okay, so there are periods of time during the day where you would be there in the dark, in the room.
Yes.
What was it like in the room when the lights were off?
It was pitch black. You couldn't see anything.
Would you have to feel your way around to
Yes.
see what's going on? Now, did the room have a bathroom or access to the bathroom?
It had a bucket for my urine and feces, but that was basically it.
Okay, so if you were in the room and you were closed in there and you had to use the bathroom, what was your only option?
Use the bucket.
When you were in Arizona, did you ever have to use the bucket for Arizona for feces?
Yes.
Did you have to use it for urine?
Yes.
Because you had to urinate in the room on occasion, how was did the room smell at all?
Yes.
How did it smell? I mean, was it bad?
Putrid.
Okay, here's the room. Dr. Janie Lacey, you've got, let's presume, okay, that what the defense is going to be arguing here is accurate, that they felt fear for their younger children, that he had been violent to other relatives. He had pushed a heavy door on a pregnant relative. He had threatened other ones. He had brought box cutters to school. He was gathering up and taking knives from the kitchen, and he wandered around at night. How does a parent, or what should a parent do if you feel in that situation that your other children may not be safe.
You know, in this case, Vinny, if that is true, that the parents truly felt fear and that the other family members were in danger, you know, the question I pose is that, especially from what's reported, having resources, being an educated family, why not get professionals involved that could help intervene, help guide, help you with setting parameters in the family, because there are these people that are available to them, especially when it comes to adoption processes, and as we are hearing, ODD, reactive attachment disorder. So that's my first question that I would always pose to a family looking at in this situation is why not, if it was that bad, why not get help? Why not get people to come help you, not only with the parent coaching, but with your teenage son in particular? Because there is protocols, there's coaching, there's a lot of different opportunities that they could have had to help change the behavior if that was truly what was happening in their home.
I stopped right there because she is making so much sense. I mean, how much common sense does it take to figure out, yes, there may be problems with the boy. Yes, you're not able to take care of it on your own. You need help. You need guidance. You need some kind of understanding to find out what is wrong with this child. Oh, by the way, whatever you hear in the background, that's my wife.
Yes, it is.
That's my wife promoting her coffee product. So bear with me and bear with her. Anyway, as I was saying, it doesn't take a genius to ask for help. It doesn't take a surgeon to say, my child needs help. But what it doesn't take is putting your child in an 8x8 prison for 16 to 18 hours at a time with only a pillow, a sheet, a mattress, and a bucket.
That was crazy. Okay.
But I'm gonna let this conversation continue for a bit before we even get into testimony.
Dr. Robbie Ludwig, how, and I think a lot of people are thinking about this too as we're watching this trial, is there a way for this family to get the child out of that environment? How damaging would that be? Would it be more damaging to the child if they tried to send him off to some disciplinary type of school, boarding school, or military school, or some school where they're going to kind of keep him secure? Is that going to be more damaging than keeping him somewhat at home? What are your thoughts there?
Well, just to go back a little bit, when it comes to childhood disorders, if you have abusive, sadistic parents, then the child is going to act out. And so that piece doesn't seem to be addressed. What part of the parenting and the connection to the child is contributing to these acting out behaviors? And that has to be a part of what's understood. Also, I agree that there was no treatment that was given to this child, no family therapy. There was no desire to seem to understand or treat this child, or curiosity as to why is my child acting this way. It just seemed like there was pleasure in punishment and that this child was scapegoated for some reason. Now, maybe he was a tougher child, but that he was scapegoated as the bad one, and at some point they enjoyed it. And, I think that's why we're all reacting to the case the way we are.
All right, Dr. Janie Lacey, Dr. Robbie Ludwig, Sharonda Brown staying with us. Have a lot more questions for them. We're going to talk about some of the other alleged abuse above and beyond just the room/box itself. Plus, coming up next hour. In Delaware, Ohio, Emily Noble was missing for 4 months when she was found dead with a USB cord around her neck. Her husband, Matthew Moore, was charged with her murder. He sat in jail for 15 months until his trial. Then, a jury found him not guilty. Tonight, Matthew Moore joins us for a live interview to tell his story of what it was like. Florida father accused of locking his son in a box in the garage with a bed, a bucket, and a camera.
He was locked in a room for hours at a time.
Police say this abuse went unnoticed for years.
There are ring videos that the state provided of the child lying. He faces up to 40 years.
I'm not sure they're going to be able to justify it.
What's going on in this house?
The Boy in a Box trial. Live coverage weekday mornings at 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
Stand up, or I give people an attitude. Answer me before I give her a pissed off. Answer me. Why are you giving her an attitude? We have your school today talking to your people to give you a better opportunity. Give her an attitude. You want to take this to the next level? You want to lose all of your opportunities? If you're being a jerk, no one cares how smart you are. No one gives a You'll sit in the dark in some spot that no one will want to deal with you. So you change that attitude, or you dive deeper. Which do you want?
That's Timothy Ferriter yelling at his adopted son. Now, the jury is seeing video. It's Ring camera video, but because there's a minor involved, we're not showing you, and the court's not permitting any of the video to be broadcast. So we're getting the audio from all of this. And then the beeps you hear are a combination of his name and some words that you can't say on television. So we can't see it, but guess who can see all of these videos? Court TV legal correspondent Julia Janae, and she has this report for us tonight.
Vinny, those hours of surveillance video that captured what was happening inside of that room that this child victim, RF, was dealing with day in and day out, it seemed to intrigue the jury and frustrate his foster father and drew some new emotion from his adoptive mother. Tracy Ferriter was there in the gallery, and she was dabbing her eyes with tissue, flanked by supporters who sit with her each day in the gallery. We really haven't seen this much emotion from her during this trial until today. She seemed to be most moved by hearing her husband's voice berating their then 14-year-old son. Now, on the opposite side of the courtroom, there's a man who's now responsible for RF's care. All 4 of the Ferriter children were removed from their parents' custody due to those charges against them. And this guardian, he appeared agitated, especially when we saw on that video overnight of RF having to use that orange bucket that's in the enclosure to urinate, and then was told by his father the next morning to go pour it out and do it where the neighbors wouldn't be able to see what was going on. That guardian ultimately left the courtroom when we could hear the Ferriters forbidding their son from using the air conditioning unit that was meant to cool that structure in the garage.
Don't touch the air conditioning, okay? You have to say that again and again and again and again. Don't ever touch it.
The jurors on this case, they were paying attention, but they did seem to get restless after several hours of the surveillance video showing similar days for this child. And this panel of 6 plus 3 alternates, they weren't doing a lot of note-taking, but Timothy Ferriter was taking copious notes and even moved to a different place in the courtroom so that he could make sure to see all of the state's evidence in front of this jury. Vinny?
Julia Janae down in Palm Beach County covering all this for us. Now, I want you to take a listen. Again, this is going to be the audio. We can't show you the video. But here, Timothy and Tracy Ferriter both yelling at their adopted son, some allegations of stealing. Take a listen.
Tell me something? You want to tell me what? This is your one chance. Don't look at me like you want to tell me something or not?
I have a nightmare.
Yeah, from where?
Blue van.
Where?
Green van.
Excuse me?
Green van.
Steve? chocolate, and then you got so much stuff in your. You're just such a disappointment. You're gonna lose. I'm gonna take you out of that school, and you're gonna be in this room. He's gonna be. You're this close because I can't trust you. Put the ankle bracelet back on, and then you can try to run away if you want and do all the you do. But I'm gonna lock your out.
You guys those are from my toilet.
Give me.
Why are you a little sick?
I'm sick of the bull. You're a big boy. You're gonna steal. You're gonna talk to the police. I'm gonna give you a deal. Okay? You're gonna steal from my house. You'll be done with school. You'll be in here homeschooling. I told you that's a possibility. So go ahead and test me tomorrow by going to school and misbehaving or doing anything you shouldn't do. Test me.
Let's bring back in.
All right, there we go. Sorry about that delay, guys. We had a little bit of a freezing moment. But
anyhow, we're 30 those.
what you heard, and I heard it too, it just literally disgusts me. I thank God right now that I have the strength to hang on here with you guys and not rush to the bathroom just to vomit. What Tim Ferriter did with that boy, no matter what is happening there does not deserve to be berated and locked up in a prison cell, because that's what that structure is, a prison cell. For 16 to 18 hours at a time. And it goes right, and all this makes me go back to the point of him rejecting a plea deal where he'd be in prison for 2 years and on probation for 5. What the jury saw and heard, that was more than enough for 30, maybe 40 years behind bars. How are you gonna defend that? The defense has absolutely nothing at this point. Nothing. Oh, but there's so much to get through though. So
Instead of the first, like I should have, but for some reason they deleted.
So we're gonna go ahead and get the testimony.
Our copy stuff out.
We're gonna go to the testimony of Timothy Ferriter's daughter. First thing you're going to hear is her testifying about the 8x8 quote-unquote box. This windowless room in the garage.
So yesterday we got a drink in. Today we got a coffee in. Yeah, Slimmer. Oh, this works really good. So you take one tablet, one capsule, about 1 glass of 8-ounce water.
I missed something. Can you say it again?
Give me a quick second, guys. Honey, did you all mistakenly?
It's about 1 hour and 38 seconds p.m.
Echo, shut off.
Yeah, that's my Amazon. Okay, so now, but getting back into the seriousness, we're gonna go right now to the testimony of Ferriter's daughter.
So yeah, I don't promote whatever works. That's what I know. Because all of this stuff works.
She's testifying on what she's seen, what she knows about the 8x8 box for starters. So here's your disclaimer. And here we go.
I think you were telling us about the makeup of your family in December of 2022. I asked you, you said you lived with your two parents. What were their names? Timothy and Tracy. Okay. And you said that you lived with three siblings. To Ronan, approximately. 2 years? Okay, so you're 2 years older? Roughly. Okay, so you're 17 now, almost 18? Correct. And so that he's about 15, just turning 16 approximately? 16-ish, yeah. Yeah, he just turned 16? Yes. And how far away in age? If you don't know, that's okay. I'm not entirely sure. Are you guys kind of relatively close in age? Yeah, we're all relatively close. Within a year or two of each other? Correct. Were you close in grades in school? Correct. Yes. How old is Pierce now? Approximately. I learned as 4. Okay. So he's kind of, through much of this, was a smaller baby or a toddler? Yes. Okay. Ronan were much closer in age. Yes, you were. Okay. Were you originally born in the United States? No. Where were you born? I was born in China. Okay. How did you end up coming to the United States? I was adopted. Okay. And who were you adopted by? Do you know how old you were when you were adopted? No. Okay. Were you a baby or a toddler? I could walk, sort of. So maybe in between. Okay. So a little though. Yes. Now, do you know when he was born in the United States? Yeah, no, he wasn't born in the United States. Do you know where he was born? Vietnam. Okay. Was he also adopted? No. And Pierce, was he? Now, you said that in January in 2022, everyone lived together. And where did you live? What city did you live in? We lived in Jupiter. Is that in Palm Beach County? Yes. Now, growing up in the time that you were living in Jupiter, maybe one before, who was kind of the rule maker for your parents? Timothy, my dad. Was Tracy involved in enforcing the rules or making the rules? She helped support the rules. Okay. But who was the one that dictated what the rules and what you had to follow? Tim. If you had a dispute or disagreement about a rule or whether or not it was fair, is that something that you could talk about with Tim? No. Okay. And why is that? Because he would reason us out of it, or I just wouldn't be able to say anything. Was he the disciplinarian in the house? Yes. Now, I want to talk about, you said in January of 2022, you guys lived in Florida. When did you come to Florida? We moved roughly in December. I'm sorry, the years are a little confusing. So I think we said January of 2022 is when you were with your when you guys lived together as family. Correct. Did you move back December right before?
Yeah, the December previous.
Okay, so that would have been December of 2021?
Correct.
So the time frame that we're talking about, is that like 5 or 6 weeks?
Roughly.
That you lived in that house in Jupiter?
Yes.
Okay. And you moved back, you moved to Florida. Where did you move from?
We moved from Arizona.
How long had you been in Arizona at that point?
Approximately 5 years.
Prior to Arizona, where did you live?
Florida.
So this was your second time coming back to Jupiter, Florida?
Yes.
When you lived in Florida before, was that like elementary school age, much younger?
Yes, up until 5th grade.
Now, when you moved back to Jupiter, what neighborhood did you move into?
When we moved back?
Yeah, in
Secret Landing.
What type of house was that?
It was a small one-story house.
Okay. Single family home?
Correct.
Okay. How many bedrooms did it have?
3.
Who had the bedrooms?
So the master bedroom were Tim and Tracy, Nola, and then, yeah, I guess you want to have the one in the garage in the bedroom, then that's where, oh yeah, no, sorry. Pierce had his bedroom in the office. They made that into his own room.
Okay, and you said that there was, that I wanted to count something in the garage. What do you mean by that? What was in the garage?
They had a room built for,
who had it built?
My parents.
Okay, so Tim and Tracy had that room specifically built into the garage?
Correct.
Okay. Is that room already there by the time you moved?
I don't remember.
Okay, but was it there shortly thereafter?
I saw it at least.
And this is room in the main house?
Correct.
One that had to stay in the garage?
Yes.
Now, I wanted to show you what has already been marked as evidence and shown to the jury. There's some pictures of your home, okay? And so I want to see if you recognize any of them. You mentioned that you had a bedroom. I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as evidence as states 7A and F. Just take a look at it and tell me if you recognize whose room that is.
Yeah, that's my room.
Okay. And now I'm going to show you what's been marked as evidence as states 5A through D. It's another bedroom in the home. Whose bedroom is that? And then I'm going to show you what's been marked as evidence as states 4A through D. You might need to flip because like one's a close-up. It's fine to do that. Do you recognize what room that is?
Yeah, so this one's Pierce's room.
And we see some mattresses on the floor there. Is that how it was when you lived there? Were there mattresses? Just a crib in there?
There was a lot of things in there. I can't remember specifically.
Is that Pierce slept in there by himself?
Yes.
Now I'm going to show you what's been marked as evidence of state 6. Tell me what that shows. And I'm going to show you what's been marked as evidence of state 9. What does that show us a picture of?
That's the garage.
And in state 9, you said that there was a structure built that your parents specifically built in the garage. Can you see it in that picture?
Yes, it's behind the racks.
All right, this now 17-year-old daughter is describing the house, the rooms, important things that I took note of. I want to hear what she thought. First of all, she described the father was the disciplinarian. He dictated the rules. That gets him in the loop. And yeah, they built a room for the victim child in the garage.
Yeah. What jumped out at me, a couple things. Number one, the girls had their own or young, very young.
No names.
FF, you're right, gosh, and you just reminded me. And FF had her own room. One of the other boys, his mattress was on the floor in an office. So
Michael.
maybe there was a shortness of space. So maybe, that's part of where they're going to go with it. And also that they were given treats and he wasn't given treats very often.
Right.
So, yeah, go ahead.
But didn't you point out that it's the girls were getting treats, but not the boys?
Neither of the boys. She testified that only me and her little sister got it, FF and the little sister, but not the two boys.
Isn't that something?
So
I had
maybe
noticed
there's some way that there's a way he's treating boys different than girls. I do not know, but interesting stuff. Coming up next.
Yes.
So the question is, when he wasn't in the room, which he wasn't in the room all the time, what was he doing? Well, we're going to find out from FF. She'll tell us a little bit about what he was doing when he wasn't in the room. So keep it right here on Court TV, your front row seat to justice.
Shout out to Court TV's Michael Ayala and Judge Ashley Wilcott for that insight into that part of the daughter's testimony. I mean, I've heard of stories of how parents treat one child different from another, or how one child, how a girl's being treated different than a boy and all that other stuff, but it sounds to me like Tim Ferriter is just taking it to an extreme. Let's get you back.
I've worked hard all my life. I've gone from being a local reporter to becoming a law student to then even going on
Beverly Hills mansion. The boys claim their father abused them for years. Lyle Menendez spoke to Rosie O'Donnell.
If my father moved on to my brother.
Doesn't need to be talking about the time leading up to the murders.
Probably not, but there is have been severed per Tim's request, so they're being tried separately. Timothy's going first. Let's get you back into the courtroom. The couple's 17-year-old daughter is testifying in an adjacent courtroom via electronic, like a Zoom, so that she's not actually in the courtroom and we can hear her testimony.
Let's talk about that white structure that's in the garage. Yeah, the little white box. Let's talk about it. Did that have any windows? No. Did it have a lock from the outside? Yes. Did it have any access from in the garage to a bathroom? No. Okay. And did it have lights inside of it? I can't remember. Is that room, other than just sleeping time, did he spend time or was he put in that room? Yes. Walk freely through the house? No. Was he allowed to do something like watch TV in the living room? Not alone. Were you allowed? Freely available to Ronan in the kitchen? No. Would he be allowed to go and take a snack out of the fridge? No. What about get a drink of water if he was thirsty? Is that something he would be allowed to do? Maybe water if someone watched him. Only if someone watched him. And only if he's out of the room? Yes. Were you allowed to take a snack if you were hungry? Did receive special treats like desserts or snacks? Correct. What would happen in those instances? Would they be shared with all of your siblings? Or snacks? Yeah. Are there times through the, in this household growing up, were you someone who was observant of how your parents treated your other siblings? Yes. Did you watch and listen to things that were happening? Yes. Throughout your childhood? I did. Are you an observant person? I would consider myself to be. Did you ever see Ty or Ronan get punished? Yes. How was it different?
It was either more extreme or something completely different than what we received.
Were you ever locked in your room or prevented from leaving?
No.
Did you ever have to go to the bathroom only in a bucket?
No.
Were you ever required to be alone in your room in the dark?
No.
Was Ty allowed to play games?
No. Did not unsupervised.
Was he allowed to have a device?
No.
Now, punished for little things.
Yes.
Like what?
For me, it would be just not answering questions. Maybe he plays a little too rough with one of us, or he talks back.
When you say he wasn't answering questions, what do you mean?
Let's say he did something wrong and they asked him about it. He wouldn't say anything. He just wouldn't answer them.
And what would be the response to that?
If he didn't answer them to a certain point, he'd be sent to his room. Or if he did answer, he'd still.
All right, before we take a break, let's bring back in attorney Marie Pereira. And Marie, there was some questions by the defense about the way this was being handled. She's 17 years old. She's in a separate room. The attorneys are in that room asking the question. The courtroom can see her on the Zoom monitor, et cetera, et cetera. You have any issues at all with the way this is being conducted?
No, because I'm hearing her testimony very clear. And she is a very impactful witness for the prosecution because she's really testifying as a person who saw and heard, what was going on there. And they were treating him differently from the other kids. Definitely bad evidence as far as the defense is concerned. And I hope they could come back on cross and do a rehab because this witness is saying he was treated differently. He wasn't given snacks. They didn't keep him in the house. She's verifying everything from an insider standpoint. And she's their daughter. Very damaging.
Now, I got to say, Judge, I agree with you, Marie. She's verifying it. But the stuff that I'm seeing here, I mean, do you treat all your do you have to treat all your children exactly the same? Nothing that I'm seeing here goes to the level of abuse with the exception of being put in that room, which it sounds like they needed room in the house. They didn't have enough rooms.
Well, and it depends, doesn't get snacks. Does he get enough food or not? Potentially that's abuse. But being left in the dark, no device. So keep in mind, it's locked from the outside and he has no device. What if he needs help? What if he has a heart attack? What if there's a fire? He can't do anything. He's helpless. That's abusive, Marie. Do you agree or not? 30 seconds.
I agree 100%. It's the bucket defecation for me. They should just stick to that. Every time I hear it, my heart beats fast and I cringe. And it wasn't a room, Michael. It was a prison, so he wouldn't get out. So don't say it was a room.
And, just the other part of it, that his punishment was more extreme. His punishment, so the jury has to decide, does that rise to the level of abuse?
Yeah, I mean, the punishment's what? Was it he got maybe yelled at a little bit more, he would be sent to his room if he didn't answer questions. So, yeah, I get that. And again, I'm not disputing the room issue. That's bad.
Right. But I agree with you. I think it could be punishment until the line is crossed. Sure. And their position is that line was crossed.
Yeah, no
all right. Thank you, Marie Pereira, for joining us this hour and last hour. Always delightful to have you with us.
All right, folks, coming up, we'll see what else the daughter will say to the jury and the boy in the box trial. That's all coming up next, right here on Court TV, your front row seat to justice.
I stop it right here because to say that the daughter's testimony is compelling is an understatement, ladies and gentlemen. Compelling to the point of damning for the defense. I mean, she's under the same roof. She's literally a witness to everything that's gone down. And like the obvious statement there is, she's the daughter. That's number one. Number two, I agree with the guest attorney on there when she told Court TV's Michael Ayala, don't call it a room. Don't call that a room. No, a room would have a lot more things that are accessible to him. He could go in and out as he pleased. That wasn't a room. That was a prison cell. Plus, on top of it, Judge Ashley Wilcott added on to this. There's no knob on the inside of the door, so he can't go out as he pleases. He's in the dark. What if something were to happen to him and he had no way of contacting anybody that something was wrong with him? Bottom line, if that's not abuse, I don't know what else to tell you. Let's go back. Let's get ready to go back and get some more of this young.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Michael Ayala.
And I'm Judge Ashley Wilcott. Thank you for joining us. In West Palm Beach, Florida, a jury heard opening statements in the boy in a box trial.
Timothy Ferriter is accused of aggravated child abuse, false imprisonment, and child neglect for allegedly locking his adopted son in an 8x8 box in the garage.
Court is still in session at this hour right now. The daughter is testifying now. For your awareness, she's in a room adjacent to the courtroom. Yep. The attorneys are in that room with her, and then she is being zoomed into the courtroom for everyone else to see. We can't show her face, but we're going to listen to more of her testimony.
Is he then allowed to leave?
No.
Is he locked in there?
Yes, he did leave. I don't know if he was locked all the time, but I know he wasn't allowed to leave.
Did you see both Tim and Tracy force him into the room? Make him go into the room?
I heard both of them tell him to leave.
And did you see both Tim and Tracy involved in the punishment and discipline?
Can you be more specific?
Well, there's some things that one person did or the other person did, but were they both?
They were both involved with the punishment.
Now, over time, growing up with your brother, did you notice him become less communicative?
Yes, he shut down.
Okay. Did you notice him over time, especially toward the end, become more withdrawn?
Yes.
Did he smile less?
Yes.
And that's something you noticed kind of as his sibling?
Yes.
Now I want to talk about specifically right now the time in Florida. What was your observation about kind of how often he was in the room?
How often he was in the room?
Yeah, did you see him around the house very often?
Not inside the house.
No. Where would you see him?
Outside.
Okay, tell me about that. What would he be doing outside?
Yard work, moving the outdoor furniture.
So when he's outside, is it like that he has the opportunity to freely play?
No, it's not. It's not very dangerous.
Okay. What kind of yard work is he doing?
At the time we were moving in, so it was mostly moving supplies outside of the house.
Okay. Was there some yard work or landscaping involving shelves that he was required to do?
Yes.
Okay. Is that something that you were required to do?
No.
And did you see him doing that?
Yes, I did see him moving the shelves.
And you said that you would observe him outside. When he was told to go outside, did he have the free option of coming back into the house?
No.
How would that work?
So if he was put outside, one of them would know that he's outside. One of my parents would know he's outside, and then if he got done with work, he'd come and wait for them to let him back.
Okay, would he be allowed to just come back in?
Not unless someone was watching him.
Okay. And are there times when he'd be locked out of being allowed back in the house?
Yes.
And then when he was let back in, would he then be able to relax around the house, or what would happen?
Not really. He'd either go to his room or just go somewhere to be monitored.
Okay. Now, in your house, did you eat meals with him regularly?
No.
Where would he be while you would be eating?
Most likely in his room.
And what about when you would get home from school? Would he be with you doing homework in the kitchen or the living room?
No, he did most of his homework in his room. I didn't see him very often.
You didn't see him very often out around the house?
Around the house.
Okay, so when you saw him, when he was home and you were home, for the most part, was he one of two places?
Yes.
And what are those two places?
Room or outside?
Were you allowed after school to come and go freely around the house?
Yes.
And your mom, was she around during those times of the day after school?
Yes.
She didn't work?
No.
Were there times that the defendant, Tim, in this case, was also around?
Yes.
In the house?
Yes.
That he was out and allowed to eat meals?
He was sometimes eat with us.
The majority of the time, though, was he there?
Not that enough that I can really recall.
Now, you, at that time, were you involved in any activities at school?
I was here.
Yeah, here.
I was a part of the marching band and band in general.
Were there some times that you had football games or events that were related to the marching band?
Yes.
Sometimes on those occasions, did your brother come to the event?
Not that I can recall, but.
Where would he be during those?
If my parents were going to the event, he might have been with them or he might have been at home.
Okay. And when he was left home alone, if your parents were at your event, was he allowed to be out freely in the house?
No.
So were there family events? Did you personally even get the opportunity to see him very often during those 6 weeks in Florida?
Very, like passing outside maybe, or through the window.
Even when he was at home?
Yeah, so I would see him like maybe moving artwork and I'd see him through my window, or maybe he did everything other in the house for food or whatnot.
Now, was there a time in Florida where your brother ran away?
Yes.
And do you remember that happening?
Yes.
Was it over a weekend?
I believe so.
Okay, and what, did you end up staying at, what kind of happened when he was gone? Where were your parents?
So, I was left, and Tim was far enough not present in the house.
Okay, so he's out of town maybe?
Yes.
And you said Tracy left.
Yes.
Where did she go?
I believe she went to Nola or something.
Was that like in Jupiter, around Palm Beach County, or was it out of town?
I don't remember.
Okay. But were you home alone?
Yes.
While your brother was missing?
Yes.
Were you allowed to let him back in the house?
No.
If he came?
No.
Now, I want to talk for a second about another time frame. And Your Honor, now would be the appropriate time to read that instruction.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, I have an instruction on the law that I'll be reading to you at this time. The evidence you receive from FF and RF concerning other crimes, wrongs, or acts allegedly committed by the defendants will be considered by you for the limited purpose of proving motive, opportunity, intent, preparation, plan, knowledge, or corroborating the testimony of EM, and you shall consider it only as it relates to those issues. However, the defendant is not on trial for a crime, wrong, or act that is not included in the information. You cannot convict the defendant for an offense he is not charged with. Instead, he can only be convicted of the crime for which he is charged.
Now, I want to talk with you about, we talked about kind of the time frame in Florida. Prior to Florida, you said you lived in Arizona.
Correct.
Tell me about the house that you lived in Arizona. What city did you live in Arizona?
I lived in Tucson.
Okay, tell me about the house you lived in.
It was a one-story house.
How many bedrooms? What did it have? Tell me about that.
So there were 4 bedrooms.
When you first lived there, who were the bedrooms assigned to? Your sister, your brother, and you each had an individual bedroom?
Yes.
Okay. And was your brother's bedroom? When you kind of first moved to Arizona?
I just finished the 5th grade, so I don't know what that age range is.
So you're in about
Oh, wait, no, moving?
when you first got to Arizona?
Yes, sorry.
So is it right to say that he was probably in the 3rd or 4th grade at that point? He had his own room?
Yes.
That room, was it like an ordinary, regular room, or was there anything different about it?
No, it was basically a mirror of Noah's room.
Okay. Could he go and come freely in that room?
Yes.
Okay. At some point, was there any kind of lock placed on that room?
There was a latch.
Tell me about that.
There was a little latch attached to the top of the door frame. It had a little keyhole thing.
So tell me, what does that mean for the person that's inside the room?
He couldn't come out.
Okay, so it could be latched from the outside?
Yes.
Did you see that there were times when he had a room in the house that it would be latched from the outside and he'd be locked in that room? Would he be locked in that room in Arizona?
Yes.
Okay. Did that room have a bathroom?
No.
Now, is there at some point a time where he no longer had a room in the house?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
When our room built into the garage.
Okay. Tell me about the room that was built in the garage.
No windows. It had no windows. It had an AC unit, a bed, and sometimes a bucket, or sometimes the bottles were in there before they were taken out.
Okay, tell me about that. Was there times, how would that happen?
So like about the items in his room being taken out. If he got in trouble, if something happened, they would get moved out all the way out of his room, or if he had like decorations, when he would get upset, he would take them off the walls.
Okay. And when you say you would take, they would take everything out of the room, what would be left in the room?
His bed and a small desk where he would do homework.
Now, you mentioned that the room was built into the garage. Was that house the same as the Florida house? Like, was it all on one level, or was it something different?
So the Arizona house?
The Arizona house.
It was all on floor. The garage had steps going down to it, but it was all on one.
Now, that room in Arizona, did it have a bathroom attached to it?
The guy's room?
Yeah.
No.
Did it have any windows?
No.
Did that room lock from the outside?
Yes.
Did that room have any kind of smell?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
It did not smell good.
How come?
He had his bucket in there, which he would use to his bathroom. And sometimes if he didn't have a bucket in there, it would just be on the floor.
Now, were there times in Arizona, like in Florida, where your brother...
All right, so Tracy Ferriter, they're looking on, concerned, listening to her daughter. You mentioned you saw the defendant actually taking notes, reacting a little differently to watching his daughter testify. And you know, pretty damaging testimony we just heard. The judge made sure to let the jury know that any crimes that were going on are only to prove motive, intent, corroborating testimony. And basically what she went on to tell them was when they lived in Tucson, they basically were doing the same thing.
Exactly. It ended up with a lock on the outside of the door. He couldn't come out. There were times he would be locked in his room. There was no bathroom. A couple days she didn't even see him, but not a crime alleged. However, it says a lot about what they were doing to discipline this boy.
Yeah, so make no mistake, jury. You know, if they try to tell you it was a mistake or something along that line, no.
Yeah.
They did the very same thing while they were over there. Not a crime, but it's something for you to consider.
Absolutely. Right. And I think the jury's going to consider it as well.
No question about it.
Time for a short break, Michael. When we come back, we're going to have more testimony in the Boy in the Box case. We're wrapping up the first day of testimony in this trial in Florida.
Kill your parents. Because we were afraid.
But we're not allowed to show her because she's a minor, but you can hear her. And I just want to mention this particular daughter that's testifying was also an adopted daughter.
Right.
We're trying to check exactly how many of them were adopted, but we know the two, the child at the center of this case as well as this daughter, was adopted. All right, let's get back into court.
Like the same idea as one here, when we did it in Florida, he got in trouble, get sent down to his room, but it's more of getting sent down. More often he was getting sent to the room.
And then how long would he be in the room for? Would it be long periods of time?
It would be long periods. I can't say off the top of my head.
Are we talking like all day?
Can I just say there were some days that I didn't really see him that often?
Yeah. And so if you didn't see him that often, was he like not at the house or where was he?
He was in his room or again outside.
Okay. So was the situation in Arizona similar in that he spent a lot of time in the room by himself?
Yes.
If he wasn't in school, where was he most of the time?
Are we talking about in Arizona?
In Arizona.
In Arizona, outside doing yard work or in his room.
Now, we talked about in Florida, when he's outside doing yard work, he couldn't just come back in. Is that the same in Florida?
Yes.
What would happen? Like, where would he just stand outside, or how would that work?
Yeah, so if he was doing yard work finished, he'd come stand outside and just wait, or one of them would go meet him outside. And by then, I mean my parents.
Okay. Was he allowed to just come back in himself?
No.
Would the door be locked?
I can't.
Okay, you don't know whether or not it was locked.
I don't know.
Okay, I don't want you to speculate. But was he allowed or freely able to come back in?
No, no.
Okay. Now, when he's outside, is he have under direct supervision there?
No, not all the time.
So he's just kind of out there by himself?
Yes.
And your parents, Tim and Tracy, are someplace else?
Yes.
Now, you said that was roughly around the time that who ended up taking was it approximately how many years do you think was the special room in Arizona? Just an estimate.
Oh, like
how long before you moved to Florida was he kept in that room?
So the one in Arizona?
The one in Arizona, before you came to Florida.
Theirs was roughly 2 when we got here, so maybe more than a year.
So approximately 2 years,
roughly. That he's been in a room. That's not
before you came to Florida.
Yes.
Okay. And how old were you when you came to Florida?
So moving from Arizona to Florida.
How old were you?
So, oh wait, oh I'm sorry, I think I got confused. Wait.
It's okay, take your time.
Okay, so when we moved to Arizona, yeah, I had just finished the 5th grade, and then when we moved back, I was in the middle of my sophomore year.
Okay, so you were in high school.
Yes.
When you came back to Florida.
Yes.
And your brother was in middle school.
Yes.
Now, we talked a lot about your brother being in the room in Arizona. Were there times where you were concerned about whether or not your brother was getting food or being fed regularly?
Yes.
What would you do when that happened?
If I saw there was a plate for him, sometimes I'd be able to take it and just brought it down to him really quick. And otherwise, I really couldn't do anything.
And when you say you brought it down to him, where would you have to bring it down to him?
To his room downstairs in the garage. This is Arizona, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so downstairs, his room there.
Are there times over the course of when you were living in Arizona that you ever saw your father, the defendant, be physically aggressive towards your brother?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
He would grab him by the back of the neck and just kind of calling down to his room. That was the most common one that I saw.
Would you be able to see what was happening once they're down in the room?
Once they're in the room, no.
Would you be able to hear what is happening?
Yes.
Tell me what you heard.
I would hear him curse at him, yell at him.
And you saying I would hear him curse at him? Who curse?
I would hear. And then I'll hear my brother scream.
Now, during these interactions, are they like is Tim, the defendant in this case, like rationally explaining or calmly explaining the change in behavior or what your brother did wrong?
No.
Is he angry?
Yes.
How can you tell that? Like, what makes you think that he was angry?
It was really loud, and it didn't really seem much like an explanation. It just felt like he was just shouting at him.
Was your brother in trouble with your parents or on punishment with your parents a lot of the time?
Yes.
Did it seem like he basically was always in trouble?
Yes.
Did it seem like even when he did things that were positive or appropriate, that was acknowledged? Based on what you saw.
Objections overruled. Objections overruled.
Wait, before answering.
The objection was speculation, correct? Objections overruled.
Based on what you saw, when your brother was acting in the way that your parents wanted or doing positive things, was that acknowledged?
Briefly.
Okay. Did it lead to like a change in his circumstances or improvement in how he was treated?
Briefly.
Okay, and when you say briefly, what do you mean by that?
It maybe went for a week or so, and then something else happened. He did something else. He got himself in trouble and didn't go back to the way it was.
Was the ways that he got in trouble, to you, did it seem proportionate to what you knew he got in trouble for?
No.
Did it seem extreme, a reaction?
Relevant, her opinion.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that objection.
Was relevant, Your Honor?
Relevant as to her opinion.
All right, overruled. Go ahead, Ms. Copeland.
Can you answer that question?
Sorry, can you repeat it?
Yeah. Did the punishment seem appropriate or proportional to what he was doing?
No.
Did the majority of the things that he was punished for, are they minor types of things?
From what I saw, yes.
Now, I want to talk about how your perception of in both Florida and Arizona.
Okay.
Did you ever feel a time that you were unsafe around your brother?
Unsafe as to
physical harm.
Him harming me?
Yeah.
No.
No. Did you at any time, did he ever threaten you or anything like that?
No.
Did you ever see him intentionally cause physical harm to any of your siblings?
No.
Or your parents?
No.
That's all the questions I have.
All right, Mr. White, any cross?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're going to take a short break.
End of the direct examination. Here to discuss criminal defense attorney Rachel Kaufman. Rachel, tell us what you think of this. It's troubling, a lot of the descriptions, but we were talking about, does it rise to the level of abuse as alleged against this father?
Well, the testimony that she just provided lends itself to the suggestion or assumption that something is not right. Having said that, it doesn't sound like she witnessed any physical abuse. So what that tells me is there's going to need to be more evidence as to what happened. Jurors are instructed that they're supposed to take this evidence, that's not of this specific crime alleged, but of previous behavior, and only consider it for the purposes of, motive and things like that. And I think it's very difficult for jurors to separate, It just kind of fills in the story of what's been going on for a long time in this family.
I will say this, though. She may not have been an eyewitness, but she was an audio witness because she did testify that she could hear the child being slapped in the room and him yelling at him. So that's pretty powerful in and of itself. And I just want you to comment, Rachel, on the situation that this 17-year-old girl is in. Let's remember, she's testifying against her father. I'm sure a little later, when mom goes to trial, she's going to testify about her mother. To put them away in jail for abusing her brother. I mean, just think about the situation she's been put in.
You know, and it's hard to imagine. My understanding is, like you said, that she's adopted and this was her adopted brother. You just imagine what led her to be in a situation where she is adopted and then to have the people that, you know, chose to be her parents doing this to her adopted sibling. I'm sure there's a lot of, you know, survivor's guilt, a lot of, in the sense that, you know, she's kind of knowing this is happening, but she's too young to do anything about it. And it's likely that she cared about being loved and nurtured by her parents because, you know, that comes first, and she was probably quite fearful that it could happen to her if she got out of line. It's terrifying and it's sad.
And I think her testimony, Michael, might go to the false imprisonment piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no question. And the abuse. I mean, he's yelling at her, treating them differently. All those things certainly be put into that, you know, bucket as far as what this jury is considering.
Excuse me. Get back on screen here. Everything that was heard in the daughter's testimony, if you have the heart and the intestinal fortitude for this, you literally get chills from the way some of those kids were treated, including the alleged victim. And me personally, I felt every word of her direct testimony through my skin, because like I mentioned before, I suffered my fair share of child abuse when I was bounced around from one foster home to the next. And no, I don't say this just because I can say it. I say this because I've been through it. And I was blessed. I was totally blessed to end up with parents who loved me, cared for me, disciplined me when I needed it. But when they did discipline me, they didn't take it to an extreme. They never took it to an extreme as to put me inside of an 8x8 box. No. I can't even call it a box anymore. I'm going to call it like I've been calling it, a prison cell. An 8x8 prison. Just to get me to act right. And not just me. My brothers and my sister. That never happened. That would never happen. There's a fine line between discipline and abuse. And I thank God to this very day, my parents never crossed that. There is so much in the last 4 days of testimony that it's going to take me 2 more running bites back to back. So upon completion of this video, I'm going to schedule 2 more editions of BETHEA'S BYTE, the Boy in the Box trial, for tomorrow when I return from church, which will be about I don't know, let me see, 3. Let's go 4 o'clock my time, which is 7 o'clock on the East. That's on Sunday, tomorrow, and Monday we'll try to wrap it all up at high noon, because Monday court's in recess due to a federal holiday. So I'll make sure everything is covered, so we'll all be caught up before court resumes on Tuesday morning. So much to get to, and you can bet BETHEA'S BYTE Reloaded is gonna cover it. I want to thank everyone at Court TV for their diligent coverage, and as I said before, I'll shout each and every one of them out. If you want to get in contact with them on X, all you need to do is just their name is at their first name Court TV. So shout out to Julie Grant at Julie Court TV. Shout out to Ted Rollins at Ted. Yeah, you get it. Edit. Kelly Craft, Julia Janae, Judge Ashley Wilcott, Michael Ayala, Vinny Politan, all you guys, thank you so much for your diligent coverage. Thank you for doing what you do, bringing all these cases to us, and to use your catchphrase, thank you for providing us with a front row seat to justice. Thank you guys for subscribing to BETHEA'S BYTE Reloaded. I've said this many times before. I can't do this without you. You are the engine that makes BETHEA'S BYTE Reloaded run. I thank you oh so much. You have your ways to contact me on Facebook, X, here on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, email. I can't thank you all enough. Guys, I love you. I want you to take that love. I want you to spread it around to everybody you come in contact with. I want you to be good to yourself, be kind to yourself, love yourself, be good to others, be kind to others. Love them. I can see you back here tomorrow, because I'm gonna pick this back up, likely with the daughter's cross-examination. We're gonna get into the victim's testimony, and hopefully at the end of Monday we'll wrap things up with the end of the prosecution's case and the beginning of the defense's case. Until then, Ernest Bethea, the last outlaw, thank you so much for joining me. And until tomorrow, the Boy in the Box case continues. You all know what to do. Bite this. Hey guys, this is the last outlaw saying thank you to all who have watched and subscribed to BETHEA'S BYTE Reloaded, your true crime and drama-free destination. I couldn't do this without you. Did you enjoy this video? Are you looking to get more information about what you have seen and heard here? Are you looking to give feedback as to how I can present this better? Here's what you do. Like this video. The more eyes on it, the more this information gets spread to others, which makes it a step closer to justice served. Share this to your social media Again, with more eyes on this, the closer we get to seeing justice served. Drop me a comment. Whether it's on the topic or the presentation, I will respond to your theories and ideas. If you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit the subscribe button to show your support for this little true crime engine, powered by you. Set your notifications to all for future videos. Be sure to follow BETHEA'S BYTE Reloaded all over social media. At BETHEA'S BYTE Reloaded True Crime on Facebook. At EKB316 on X, formerly known as Twitter. At BETHEA'S BYTE Reloaded on YouTube. At EKB316 on Instagram. At King of Hearts 316 2021 on TikTok. You can email me at kingofhearts316_09 at outlook.com. This is your home for news without the drama, your opinions, lively debates, your voice heard, and above all else, justice served. This is BETHEA'S BYTE, and it's reloaded.